Van Morrison, the iconic musician whose soulful melodies have captivated audiences for decades, has always been an enigmatic figure. Known for hits like Brown-Eyed Girl and Moondance, Morrison's music career has been marked by both critical acclaim and personal controversy. Recently, Van Morrison has come forward with revelations that have taken fans and critics by surprise, challenging long-held beliefs and assumptions about his life and work. For years, Morrison has maintained a reputation as a private individual, rarely sharing personal details with the public. However, his latest disclosure offers a glimpse into the complexities of his experiences and the motivations behind his storied career. The truths he has revealed are both eye-opening and thought-provoking, adding new dimensions to the narrative of a man who has always been more than just his music. Van Morrison has been hailed as a genius throughout his career, which spans more than half a century. But where did that genius come from? Was he born with it, or did it take careful nurturing by supportive parents, teachers, and music industry experts? Interestingly, Morrison's background wasn't exactly what you'd expect for a future music legend. Biographer Brian Hinton, in his book Celtic Crossroads: The Art of Van Morrison, describes Morrison's upbringing in Belfast, Northern Ireland. It was a working-class suburban life on the edge of the city, with the countryside at his doorstep. Belfast in the 1940s and 1950s was deeply religious, and young Morrison was exposed to Christian imagery everywhere he played. Pastoral images and religious themes would later become central to much of his work. While Morrison's mother was a successful singer, the biggest influence on him was his father, George. After searching the United States for work, George returned home with a record collection that was one of the largest in Northern Ireland. Morrison later said it included everything from Al Jolson to Ave Maria. This incredible collection filled Morrison's head and imagination with some of the greatest music ever made. Listening to his father's records, Van Morrison realized all he wanted to do was make music. He was so passionate about it that he was willing to abandon his education to follow his dream. At just 11 years old, Morrison started his first band, the Sputniks, playing skiffle music, which was popular before rock and roll took over. By 14, he made a huge leap toward his professional music career by quitting school to join a band called the Monarchs. He worked part-time as a window cleaner to support himself, as described by biographer Johnny Rogan in Van Morrison, No Surrender. Morrison quickly made a name for himself in the Monarchs with his energetic saxophone performances, having become adept at both the sax and the guitar. However, this period of his life was also marked by heavy drinking, a habit that would cause tension in his bands for the next 2 decades. Morrison's drinking eventually led to him being expelled from the Monarchs, but Morrison was already established on the local music scene, so it didn't take long for him to find new opportunities with various popular show bands. Even in the early days of his career, it was clear that Van Morrison had the talent and natural stagecraft to become a star. However, it took many years of performing with various bands before he found the one that would make him a bona fide pop sensation. By the mid-60s, Morrison was singing songs like Ray Charles's Hit the Road Jack with a band called the Golden Eagles, marking his most high-profile role to date. But the rising popularity of R&B, led by bands like the Rolling Stones and the Animals, influenced him. Morrison wanted to form an R&B band of his own, so he responded to an ad in a newspaper to join a new R&B club in Belfast's Maritime Hotel. Morrison teamed up with a local rock and roll band called the Gamblers. They decided to shift their focus to R&B and rebranded themselves as Them, inspired by a horror B-movie from the previous decade. They cleverly advertised their concerts with cryptic messages in the Belfast Evening Telegraph, sparking local interest and creating a buzz that launched Morrison's breakthrough. As the mid-60s rolled on, Van Morrison's personal life took a dramatic turn, especially in his love life. He fell for an American woman named Janet Goddard, also known as Janet Planet. Friends of the couple have described them as an unlikely pair. Planet had previously been married and divorced, and she was a known face on the American counterculture scene. She and Morrison first met during his first U.S. tour with Them. They stayed in touch through letters, and when Morrison flew to New York to record his first solo tracks for Bang Records, Planet and her young son joined him. Although they married and seemed stable for a while, they soon faced the stress of intimidation by employees of Bang Records, forcing them to flee New York for Boston. During his marriage to Janet Planet, Morrison experienced some of the most creative years of his career. However, their time together was also marked by increasing paranoia. In 1971, they fled their California home after a psychic told them the state was due to fall into the sea. By 1973, the couple had divorced. Despite the success of Brown-Eyed Girl, legal issues with Bang Records threatened to derail Morrison's career. However, he was about to hit his creative stride. Signing with Warner Bros., he created Astral Weeks. Released in 1968 to little fanfare, but now considered one of the greatest studio albums of all time by Rolling Stone. Morrison performed early versions of the album's material during private gatherings on his first U.S. tour, showing the long gestation of songs, like the title track. The album was recorded in just 3 sessions. With jazz musicians Morrison barely interacted with. He introduced the songs via simple guitar chords and told the musicians to improvise the rest, resulting in what he described as an alchemical kind of situation. Percussionist Warren Smith recalled the Astral Weeks sessions, saying they felt like any other at the time. Sometimes you just luck up on something that's going to be perhaps historical or recognized later on, Smith said in a 2018 interview with Rolling Stone. You never know how those things are going to work out. Van Morrison's career continued to bloom in the early 1970s, with the album Moondance opening him up to a more commercial audience. However, by 1975, Morrison, now ever present in the U.S., was starting to slump. The troubles in Belfast made it impossible for him to revisit his homeland, and he began burning out. He explained, "I just had to stop. I'd had enough. I was mentally exhausted, and I just needed to get away from music completely." Morrison's aversion to music extended to even listening to it, and he spent days in silence, reading books on spirituality and psychology. For Morrison, the break was a chance to reset his creative impulses, although the press characterized him as a recluse and a mystic. No stranger to experimentation or following his own tastes, Van Morrison turned his hand to a multitude of musical styles in the late 70s and 80s. His lyrics covered everything from religion and mysticism to love, life, and personal pet peeves, receiving mixed critical responses throughout this period. But the 90s marked a dramatic upturn in Morrison's critical and commercial standing, along with some drama in his personal life. After releasing a commercially successful greatest hits compilation, Morrison dropped Days Like This in 1995. This album broke into the top 5 in the UK and was hailed as a return to form by critics, earning him a Mercury Prize nomination. The album was notable for its cover art featuring Michelle Rocca, the new love in Morrison's life. Their relationship, described in Clinton Haylen's Can You Feel the Silence, was the subject of countless column inches, especially as rumors swirled about their affairs even before their marriage came to light. Despite these rumors, Morrison eventually confirmed in 2010 that they were married and had 2 daughters together. While Morrison's career was being honored with numerous awards, including a knighthood and a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, his personal life continued to attract attention. In 2009, a surprising message appeared on Morrison's official website, claiming he had fathered a baby boy named George Ivan Morrison III with a Texan tour manager named Gigi Lee. Morrison denied the reports, and the message was quickly removed. However, it was reported that Morrison lived with Lee and the child in Ireland for a time. Tragically, the baby died due to complications related to diabetes, and Lee died of throat cancer just months later. Morrison has never publicly commented on these reported deaths. In recent decades, Morrison has continued to explore various genres and tour extensively. However, like many musicians, his career ground to a halt due to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Morrison reacted with fury to government lockdown restrictions, posting messages on his website calling for resistance against what he termed pseudoscience. Morrison has garnered much attention for the conspiratorial lyrics in recent albums, such as latest record project, Volume 1, which has been criticized for anti-Semitic overtones. Despite commercial success, the album was denounced by critics. It was quickly followed by 2022's What's It Gonna Take?, which references Morrison's public feud with Northern Ireland's Minister of Health, Robin Swan. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop us a comment below. Check out this next video.